Hey everyone, Zoraz here from Not Casuals. Today I want to talk about end of season rewards, especially which anointed pet skill is best to choose, as well as which conqueror pet skill is best to choose. As we are many seasons in the game now, there has been many times where people have gotten these rewards, and the question always comes up of what should we choose now. Obviously some of us will have a few of those already from previous seasons, so it becomes a place where it's tricky to know which is the next best one to pick. And I personally am also in this situation, as I currently have in my own pets two of the skills that were acquired in previous seasons. So I have the 3 stars for the Shadow Faedrake, and I also have the 3 stars for the split Painbloom for the Sapphire Faedrake. Now I'm kind of wondering what is next. Should I get another split Painbloom, or should I go into my archers, for example, the Snow Peak Rock, which is also an amazing pet, or the Night Rock if I'm planning to build these archers, as well as even very interesting builds of the Berserk Faedrake, who is actually a pretty strong pet with the arrogance, and the 3-star skill is also very good on them, and even the Golden Rock, which is ultimately one of the best pets for calves and does do a really good difference of damage on them if you are someone who is using calves, and I'm sorry if you are. Now we will be talking about these skills basically just in the terms of what is best for your account, because it will never be the same answer for everybody. Now in my situation, I am obviously a mage focused account, which is what many people are, and in that situation the split Painbloom is always going to be the most beneficial option for you to gain merit and do more damage to the enemy in the field. But split Painbloom actually is really not amazing unless you can get the 155 points twice, in the sense that if you get it once, you do basically duplicate your damage, and it is excellent. There is no issue about that, but this really shines when you get 310 spirit, because this gives you a third hit, so the amount of damage it gives you is huge. And when we look at my pet, or most people's pet, you know, the spirit 310 is not something that you achieve so easily. Obviously I have a lot of pets and I have only one of them that does have the spirit, but then everything else is terrible. But as many of you know, you have regenerated thousands of potions and everything you get is trash. It's always a very RNG and incredibly hard to get anything good on these attributes. So in my situation, I would really not recommend any player get split Painbloom, because I can't even get one pet to do double kit. So if I gave to my third mage march another split Painbloom, I would also have to reroll this march to get spirit. So in conclusion really is, if you do not have a split Painbloom at all for your strong mage march, your Lilia villain type of march, in that case for sure I would recommend this as my #1 option for most accounts in this game. If you already have it and you can't even get one of those to be 310, well then a second one really is not going to be that worth it. Now for the other mage march, which is obviously going to be with the Shadow Faedrake when it is a Bertrand march. Actually, I would even say this is a must. If you are having a Bertrand march or Bertrand Tohar march and it is leveled up or skilled up well enough that is usable and good, you really must be using this because this is obviously 75 spirit, so much easier to get a few seconds out of that, and this really extends it long enough so that you can make use of the pet, so that the debuff that you give, as you can see, mine lasts 5 seconds. It would be better if it lasted a little bit longer even, but it really is at least a 5-second buff of 10% damage. It is pretty strong. The damage is also 244 on the Shadow Hunter, so it is amazing, but it requires a lot more investment for it to work. The thing, this one of course, is you do need mostly a Bertrand march that is leveled up and skilled up and that is strong to get really good use of it, but it is a single target, massive damage boost. You do a lot of damage and you give a lot of damage bonus, and it works really well with that march. So if you do have a strong Bertrand march, this would definitely be your #1 choice as an end of skill season reward, because it will really give you a lot. But if you're not invested in mage, you're not investing in Bertrand, you're not investing in Tohar, not investing in Tia for like a Bertrand Tia, this is obviously a complete skip. But if you are invested in those heroes, this is in my opinion the #1, maybe #2 after split Painbloom if you also have a very strong Lilia villain. But really it is one of those ability that if you're going to be using a Shadow Faedrake, this is going to be something that you need to use. Now if you're a player that is not into mages or already have split Painbloom or Shadow Hunter or both, or one of them for your mage march, and you're mostly into archers. Of course, there's not a million options for archers. There is going to be Super Ravage, which is very, very good, but this is specifically more for a Syndran Freygar type of march, and if you do have that max and use that regularly, you must have a Super Ravage on a Nighthawk that is well built. Of course, in my opinion, that is one of the best things you can do for that march. This is going to be great. Also, this is something that does work for Zeta and Magrat, and it is decent enough. There is no problem at all. They also have a lot of crit in their kit, but in my opinion, we might see a pet in the future that fits Zeta and Magrat a little bit better than this Nighthawk, which obviously it works, but it's just not like built for them specifically. There's a few things different, as some people also use the Sand Lizard that does the healing and stuff, which can be very beneficial also for that march. So in my opinion, if you are really into Syndran Freygar, this is a must. If you're not, this is still good, but it's not a must as much. But obviously, depending on what your priorities on your account are, could still be a very good purchase for that march. But now that we know that archers most likely won't get long range warfare next season, the ability that are going to be for archers do have a lot less of a priority, in my opinion. Obviously, it will still work, and especially for PvE, but this is where it becomes a bit tricky, because Super Ravage and the option of Super Concentration for Kinara Nico, this is absolutely amazing for Kinara Nico. If you have them maxed, you do need Nico maxed to have one of those march work well at all, because it procs off of defense break, and you do not get defense break easy if your Kinara is not maxed and your Nico is not maxed, as well as you need to get one of the talents. So this is something that only works when you have them maxed, and it is absolutely amazing. But the damage that this gives is a huge increase, something like 30% more damage total from the calculations that I've seen. But again, if we're losing long range warfare, that march does become significantly less powerful and interesting to use in the field. In my opinion, it still is a more interesting march than a Nighthawk march, because of the way Kinara works, and they have a lot of counterattack damage on their kit, so you can use them a little bit better than Syndran Freygar, who just melt if they get targeted. So this is why it kind of leaves us for other options to consider, and there is a few here that do work pretty well. Obviously, so many people are going to have different accounts, so if you have a very, very strong Cav account, this is going to be one of your best bets, because of how strong it is for Cavs. Even though Cavs are such a bad place in the game, doesn't mean that this is not good for them. This is also going to be a very interesting pet. Now, from what I've heard, this was really, really good with archers, but kind of has been nerfed now, but still works really well with other marches, and especially I'm guessing Cavs will be something that works really well. So if you are building a very strong Faedrake, the red Faedrake, it will be really good, and this does do a significant amount of boost. It's a very tricky march to build because it doesn't work with everybody, and it just got nerfed, so I wouldn't risk it because I'm scared of it being nerfed again. But again, this could be a very good choice. And the other options really are going to be obviously this one, Terrible Quickening for infantry. Now, we're talking about infantry a lot lately because of how strong they are. The great height right now is having an infantry skin. Infantry are the most important unit in the game right now, and one of the strongest march in the game right now, especially if marksmen are losing their long range warfare, it will be even more so. So Terrible Quickening, very, very solid choice for a infantry march that is Goresh Kogel especially, and this will work very well, but it is off of agility, which is a good thing in a way because you do not have to sacrifice all of your strength or endurance stacks of skill. Basically you only have 3 of each, right? So if you have a lot of these skills, this one kind of like goes into a different niche, but also it's just good because it goes on the Bruins Bear, which is a very good pet for them. The other option is going to be Super Infection if you're using the Lizard for a lot of counterattack poison damage, which also works really, really well for counterattack marches like Kinara Husk, which might see a return, seeing that next season is, again, most likely not having long range warfare. So in my opinion, this is something that I would be very interested in because this works on a Lizard that works both with infantry and with counterattack marches for marksmen. So this is pretty high up on my list of priority. In my opinion, this could be really, really good. So obviously it's really hard to choose because there's so many options, there's so many things. You will have to do it depending on your account. You can't just use what everybody else is doing because every account is different. I use infantry, but they're not max, so for me buying this and this is not as good as it would be for a player who has it max or has it much higher than mine, for example. I could buy this, but my Syndrian is not maxed, and I don't like him anymore because Zagrad and Zadar is just so much better that this, I'm not going to invest in it right now. So, you know, Split Painbloom is still one of the highest, best skill in the game by far in terms of how much it's going to give you for your team, killing the enemy and merit. This is the best for Bertrand specifically. If you have a Bertrand March that's maxed, especially if you have Bertrand Tohar, this is going to give you huge increase in damage. Otherwise, it really goes around depending on what you have built. If you're playing on next season for having infantry, or if you want to wait for the next infantry and think it might be good, obviously these might come into handy. Now, if we go into the Conqueror, obviously I'm going to go pretty quickly here because there's not a lot of options that are amazing, even though they are all good. In my opinion, Outburst of Rage is the safest by far because it's always good on everybody without exception. So every second, there's a 10% chance to gain 27 rage. So this can trigger once every 8 seconds. Now, if you're looking at mathematic, once every second, 10%. So over 10 seconds, the chances of it proccing is pretty high, which means that you will be gaining something like 2.7 rage per second. If you get the math here, obviously this is not 100% accurate, but it is kind of like this. So it's decent, it's not amazing, but it does add up if you fight for, let's say, a minute and a half, which is 100 seconds, which means you have gained, you know, a significant amount of rage towards a rage skill that will give you more damage. If you have Split Painbloom, if it's on a mage, that's doing triple damage because you have 310 spirit. You can see how it really does add up. It will get better the more amazing your pet is, and the more of a whale you are, this will be even better, but it works for everybody. So it's really just one of those that is a safe one. I do have one in my inventory right now that I haven't used yet. That is going to be going most likely on my mage because also it's an agility skill, which means that my mage is not using agility skills. So that's also amazing as opposed to something like this, which is amazing because it does do crit damage for a hero skill. So this is where the value is. Hero skill is what the hero does, and that is amazing, but it's a mage skill, and there's so many magic abilities already, like, well, by magic I mean intelligence. There's so many intelligence abilities that I'm already using that are amazing that I don't really know what to replace for it. So this is where it becomes tricky to use this one. Now for this one, it's crit damage for the war pet skill, so this could be very good for a busted out 3-star everything Shadow Faedrake or Sapphire Faedrake, but it is, in my opinion, something that will be very, very well only and very late game focused. So not something that I would personally go for right now. That leaves us with this one, which is again, crit damage when a war pet does kill. So this is a strength one instead. Again, you're buffing your war pet's damage, not your hero's damage. It's still good, but it needs the war pet to be so busted for this value to be really high. Now this works a little bit better because of course it will physical damage. So it will work for all of these other pets, for archers and stuff like that, and some of them do have really, really high damage output, so this can be a good output and a good skill to choose, but again will require heavy investment into a pet and will most likely be focused for whales only. So this leaves us with follow-up, well, super follow-up. Now this is one of those that is again a very well super pet oriented feature because it will make your follow-up have a 20% higher chance of proccing, which is amazing, as follow-up can make your skill do something like 70% damage or something at the end when it's leveled up. So it means that if you have a Faedrake hitting with Split Painbloom and you're hitting 3 targets for, you know, 100, 200, then you do cast it again for 70% of its damage, and then you know, this makes it so that it has a higher chance of happening, so it'll happen much more often. So you're getting really high value out of this. This is the kind of pet skill that does do very, very well. So let me know what you guys are thinking. If you have any insight on what pet I should be picking for my next 3-star skill, or what the one you're picking and why, as I'm sure many people have done tests with pets that I haven't seen myself. So feel free to share and let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.